Yeah, I got this strange, really urgent question for you.
Hmm.
Think about the last time you had, like, a bag of snacks. Maybe those crunchy corn things.
Yeah.
And you thought, okay, I'll just have a few, you know, a normal amount. 5 or 6. Did that actually happen?
Huh.
Like,
Almost never, right? If you've ever found yourself staring at this, like, empty, crumpled bag and just wondering where your amazing adult willpower went the second you popped it open, you really need to understand something crucial here.
yeah. And that's our big secret for this deep dive. It is absolutely not your fault. You didn't fail some moral test. No, you just got completely, utterly out-engineered. You were basically facing off against teams of flavor scientists. Their whole job is figuring out the absolute peak of human temptation, mathematically.
Exactly. And it really boils down to the profit motive. I mean, look at real whole foods, things like, grass-fed beef, good eggs, actual vegetables. The profit margins for the farmers, they're tiny. Sometimes just 1 or 2%. There's just no huge industrial money in selling actual, honest food.
Which, of course, changed the whole game for the food industry. If you can't make bank selling stuff that actually sustains life, well, you have to sell something that sustains craving. So the solution became creating foods with this hyper-palatability, a pleasure sensation so intense it just blows real food out of the water.
And that leads us right to let's call them the 2 commandments of junk food engineering. Number 1, make it absolutely chemically irresistible. You can't want just one. And number 2, make absolutely sure the person eating it is never fully satisfied because, satisfaction, that's the enemy of selling more bags. If you stop after 3 chips, their whole system kind of breaks down.
Okay, let's dig into that first one. Irresistibility. We have to talk about the industry's masterpiece invention, the thing they call the Bliss point.
Ugh, the bliss point. Yes. That's the absolute holy grail for these food scientists. It's that super precise formula, the perfect maximal hit of sugar, starch, seed oils, salt, and crucially, flavorings, all designed to make your brain just light up with pleasure, but without triggering those natural, hey, maybe stop eating now signals.
And it's more than just the taste, right? They tinker with the whole experience,
Yeah.
the feel of it. They hit you with what's called dynamic contrast. Think about a chip. It's super crunchy. First tells your brain fresh, but then it melts really fast on your tongue, which tells your brain easy to eat. So you get the satisfying crunch without any real chewing effort.
Exactly right. And when you get rid of that sensory-specific satiety, that feeling where you just get tired of one taste or texture, well, if that doesn't kick in, you can just keep going. It's engineered for massive consumption.
Now, this is where it gets, wild regarding the intensity. We're not talking about, squeezing flavor out of a strawberry here. The artificial flavor chemicals they concoct, they are engineered for a stimulation level up to 300 times greater than anything you'd find in nature.
300 times.
Yeah.
Yeah, imagine, instead of a nice little shower of flavor, you get a fire hose pointed straight at your brain's reward center. And that constant, overwhelming hit forces the brain to really pay attention. So the brain, being efficient, locks that experience away as a super powerful pleasure memory.
And that memory is just brutal, isn't it? You don't even need the food nearby to start craving it. Maybe you're stressed or tired or just bored. And your brain goes, hey, remember that super pleasure thing?
Yeah.
You see a certain logo, smell a specific fake vanilla scent, and bam, your car's practically driving itself into the fast food place.
Yeah.
You're hunting for that neurological relief, even though eating that stuff actually adds more stress to your body down the line.
Mm-hmm. And the really scary long-term cost of just hammering the brain like that, it's dopamine resistance. Your pleasure receptors are just getting flooded constantly by this 300x intensity. So to protect itself, the brain starts shutting down those receptors. It downregulates them, meaning you need more and more stimulation just to feel normal levels of pleasure from food or even just from life.
Okay, so they've nailed irresistibility. Check.
Mm-hmm.
But now, commandment 2, keep them hungry. Which brings us to what you call the nutritional void and the protein trap.
Right. The reality is once they've processed these ingredients down to their basic building blocks, sugar, starch, cheap oils, there's virtually zero actual nutrition left. No phytonutrients, hardly any vitamins, definitely no useful minerals. It's nutritionally empty scaffolding.
But the package can't say that. It needs to look vaguely healthy-ish. So enter the spray-on vitamins, like food makeup.
That's a great way to put it, food makeup. They lightly spray on some synthetic vitamins, enough to meet the labeling laws. So it might list vitamin C, but what you're getting is a tiny puff of ascorbic acid. It gives the impression of value, but it totally lacks the complex micronutrients your body actually needs for real sustenance.
It feels like it breaks the basic rule of food, doesn't it? Food is supposed to give energy, sustain life, If the main ingredients don't nourish you, are they even food? Or just like chemical delivery systems designed for addiction?
And that's exactly where the protein deficit strategy comes in. This is, well, it's probably the most clever and maybe the most sinister part of the engineering.
Okay, walk us through the biology. Why is protein the magic key here?
Well, your body runs on what you could call a nutritional mandate. You have this deep physiological drive. It's controlled by pathways that sense amino acids. And this drive basically tells you, keep eating until you hit your basic, non-negotiable protein target for the day.
Ah, okay. So if you're eating foods that taste amazing but have almost no quality protein, like, say, a big bag of starchy chips or sugary cereal, your body keeps signaling, eat more, even if you've had tons of calories, because it's still hunting for those essential amino acids.
Precisely. By using really cheap, low-quality protein or just taking it out almost completely and replacing it with pure, refined carbs like sugar and starch. The industry guarantees that you stay biologically unsatisfied. It forces you to eat more volume of their product, trying to find that missing protein piece. It's a system designed not just for pleasure, but to exploit a constant nagging biological need.
Wow, yeah, that's savage. Like you said, it just lays bare how the entire design is purely about profit.
Hmm.
And speaking of brilliant, sneaky engineering, we have to get into the secret menu of fake foods and label loopholes. They are absolute masters of naming things.
Oh, yeah. Let's start with the tricky starch move, maltodextrin. Chemically, it's a complex carb, a polysaccharide. But legally, it's not classified as sugar. It's super cheap, digests incredibly fast, spikes your blood sugar, and it adds bulk and texture, all without having to be listed on the added sugar line.
Which plays right into the bigger loophole, doesn't it? The zero loophole. This explains how zero sugar stuff can still taste pretty sweet. If they keep the amount of sugar or trans fats or even maltodextrin under half a gram per serving, 0.5 grams, they can legally round it down to zero on the label.
That's the trick. So if your sugar-free drink has 0.49 grams of sugar per serving, the label says zero. But maybe you drink the whole large bottle, which is actually 2 or 3 servings. Suddenly you've downed 1.5 grams of hidden refined carbs you thought you were avoiding. It's death by milligrams.
And then there's the old reliable savory weapon, MSG. Monosodium glutamate. It's everywhere, right? Seasoning packets, chips, fast food. Because it hits that umami receptor hard, it makes even kind of bland ingredients taste incredibly savory and complex.
Creates this totally artificial richness, yeah. But the side effect is it also dumps a load of hidden sodium into your system, which often leads to that temporary water retention, feeling bloated. Another physical downside that doesn't actually stop you from craving it in the first place.
All right, let's do our quick tour through the Fake Foods Hall of Shame.
Yeah.
Just expose the massive gap between the name on the box and what's actually inside.
Okay, first up, a classic. Cheese Pops. Or cheese puffs. That crazy bright orange color, the overwhelming flavor makes you think, pure concentrated cheese. Usually, they use very little, if any, real cheese. That taste is almost entirely intense, powdered cheese flavoring blended with oils and starch.
Okay, how about imitation crab meat? Surimi. That feels like the ultimate food catfish.
Huh. Total bait and switch. You think you're getting a bargain on crab, but it's actually just cheap white fish, like cod, ground up, pressed together with starch, food coloring, and, yep, artificial crab flavoring. It has likely never seen a crab in its life, maybe not even the ocean. And the gap between real maple syrup and that cheap stuff on the breakfast table, huge cost difference tells the story. Getting sap from maple trees is hard work, expensive. The cheap version, usually high fructose corn syrup or maybe dextrose syrup, thickened up and then given that maple taste with artificial flavor chemicals, smells kind of like it, tastes nothing like it nutritionally.
And the current superstar of the Hall of Shame, plant-based meats, marketed as so pure, green, good for you.
But you got to look at how they're made. These are ultra-processed industrial products through and through, designed for profit, for scale, not really for health. They usually start with something like soy protein isolate, which is basically flavorless protein dust. So it has to be heavily flavored, texturized, colored, using a ton of chemical additives just to vaguely resemble the taste and feel of actual meat.
Right. So it's not really about encouraging people to eat, like actual spinach or lentils grown in the ground, because where's the huge profit in that? It's an industrial play to make high-margin processed food using refined protein powder that they can sell easily. It's profit-driven, not planet-driven.
Which really is the running theme here, isn't it? The engineering is almost always working against you, the consumer, even when you think you're making a better choice.
Yeah, that leads us perfectly into our next bit, the subtle dangers and these false choices.
Yeah.
Because even when you reach for something that sounds healthy, like, say, olive oil, you might still be getting played.
It's a big problem dilution. A major issue in the food world is that a pretty significant chunk of the extra virgin olive oil sold, especially in the US, is actually cut with cheaper oils, like seed oils. Sometimes there's only a tiny bit of real high-quality olive oil in there. You pay the premium price, but you get the cheap blend.
Okay, and then we have the huge debate. Artificial sweeteners versus actual sugar. For ages, it seemed obvious, right? 0 calories has got to be better.
Yeah, and that is turning out to be a massive false choice, a real trap. Sure, artificial sweeteners don't have calories, but they are chemically active compounds. They mess with your gut microbiome in negative ways. And studies are showing they can indirectly interfere with how your body handles insulin and glucose. It's like they prime your body for insulin resistance, even without any sugar actually being there.
So here's the really counterintuitive thing we found looking into this. If you were literally forced to pick one artificial sweetener or real, maybe unrefined, sugar,
Yeah.
the real sugar, assuming you don't go crazy with it, might actually be less disruptive to your body's long-term hormonal and digestive balance than the chemical stuff.
It just shows how strongly the body reacts against these compounds it doesn't recognize as food. And we see this pattern again in the fake dairy aisle. Plant-based milks, oat, soy, almond.
Ah, yes, the 2% tragedy.
The irony is just chef's kiss. You buy the carton thinking you're getting like liquid almonds or oats. But typically that carton is 98% water plus flavorings plus thickening agents. The actual plant material, the almond, the oat, often it's only about 2% of what's inside. And they're frequently thickened with stuff like carrageenan, which is a known gut irritant for a lot of people.
Wow, what a ride. We've basically gone from that lonely, empty chip bag on your lap all the way to corporate boardrooms where scientists are literally calculating your biological surrender point.
What really jumps out is just how sophisticated the whole system is. It's ingenious in a dark way. The goal is always twofold. Maximize the pleasure hit to your brain using intensity, while simultaneously maximizing your body's hunger signals by making it nutritionally barren. It keeps you, the consumer, locked in this loop, this endless cycle of craving and eating.
So the real defense isn't just more willpower because you're fighting chemistry. It has to be pattern recognition. Instead of trying to memorize a million ingredients, just use their profit motive against them. If you scan the label and see those 3 ultra-profitable, structure-changing ingredients, refined sugar, high-starch flour, and cheap seed oils, especially high up on the list, you know instantly you're looking at an engineered product designed specifically to bypass your I'm full signals.
That quick scan, that awareness, that's probably the best shield against a system this optimized. You stop being just a predictable responder and you start being an actual informed consumer making a choice.
Right. So we'll leave you with this final, maybe provocative thought to chew on. If the whole point of real, actual food is ultimately to sustain your life, and the sole point of these engineered products is just to sustain corporate profit, who's really pulling the levers when your next craving hits? Are you the one choosing? Or are you just the perfectly calculated result of a brilliant chemical trigger?